my dear YouTuber friends, and I hope you're all keeping well. Welcome to this new video, which is part 2 of understanding and the features of the G1000 in the Cessna 172. Now, it's imperative you go and look at part 1. I'll link it in the top right. That shows you our flight plan from Manchester to Heathrow. Go and look at that. I added an low altitude instrumental flight rules on that flight plan. It's imperative you go and look at that. I also went over the autopilot features of the G1000 and the symbology behind all these figures on screen. In this video, I'm going to be showing you how to set up an ILS on this second screen on the right G1000. How to set up an ILS and let the autopilot pretty much fly you into the airport, which is quite exciting. Like I said, go and look at video 1 before watching this. That's quite imperative, because I'm going to go over the autopilot features again in this, but fairly rapidly. So let's not mess around here, let's take off. So just getting up to our takeoff speed, no flaps, nice long runway. That will do for takeoff. Just gonna slightly configure the aircraft just so we're climbing. And that the throttle is nicely set in cruise mode. And straight away I'm going to turn on autopilot. So the autopilot button, go and look at video 1 if you've not seen this. So autopilot, engage nav mode so it will follow our course. And I'm also going to increase our vertical speed. I'm doing this quickly because I covered this in video 1. Right, turn vertical speed on and we'll raise by increments of 400 feet per minute. That should do. So the autopilot's got control. It will increase our altitude to 3,500 feet, whilst also keeping us on our course, or on our flight route we set up. So that's going to continue. Now it's a fairly meaty course. Remember, I covered this in video 1. I'm going to toggle map pointer so it brings up a cursor on screen. I'm going to pan our map. You can see that cursor moving. I'm going to increase our range of the map so I can see where we're going. Quite a long way to go. You can virtually go and make yourself a cup of tea while this is flying to the course. There we are, that's where we are at the moment, and we've got to come over here. When we reach about here, I'm going to show you how to set up an ILS approach. So I've just clicked the toggle map pointer. I covered this in video 1 once again, just to repeat myself. Zoom back in on our course. See what the aircraft's doing, it's rising nicely. Nothing to worry about in England, no huge skyscrapers or mountains in our way here. There's a few hills, but that 3,500 will clear any obstacle in our way. And that will just continue on our course. What I'll do, I'll bring you back when we're roughly halfway. Okay, so I'm coming somewhat to the halfway point along our course. The autopilot has brought us to 3,500 feet. It's following our course nicely. Let's now go and program in this ILS approach. So the first thing I'm going to do, I'm going to move my mouse. I covered this in video 1 again, but where you've got that toggle map pointer for map panning, so you've got that little hand symbol, just left click there, you get a little icon on screen. I can now pan the map down. I'm going to show you why I'm going to do this in a moment. So we get a good view over our destination airport, which of course is Heathrow. Zoom the map in a little bit, that will do there. Now, these 6 buttons down here, I'm going to try and do this slowly so you can follow. The second one on the left, flight plan, you want to click on that, left click, it'll bring up this little box here. From here, next to flight plan, you've got procedures. Left click on that. And now we can select an approach. Something I want to mention here, and it's a bit of a caveat for some airports. If your destination airport doesn't have ILS beacons and frequencies and goodness knows what, you can't do this. Depending what day you're going to watch this, we're going to do a multiplayer flight tomorrow over Vancouver to an airport called Squamish. And that doesn't have any ILS approaches, so you can't do it for an airport like that. For a big airport like Heathrow and many other airports, they do have ILS approaches, so you can do it for them. So we're on select approach. We're going to go to the enter key at the bottom right here, just left click, select approach. I'm going to choose ILS 9 right, so press enter while it's flashing in the box there, left click enter, use your inner knob here, this knob here, use the inner knob to scroll, actually mouse up to go down to 9R right, and again press the enter key. Now here you may have to press the procedures page again, and then press it again. It's on 9R right, so that's flashing. It's important you get this box flashing. Then you can use your mouse wheel on this navigate MFD to go down to load this approach 9R right, ILS 9R right. We'll press enter there. You can see now our map has altered. Let's hide this box here. Just press your flight plan button. And let's zoom in on this. Just using this cursor key to zoom across here. Now what it's going to do is alter our course. It's going to bring us down here. The autopilot will bring us along this course, like we're doing at the moment. We're carrying on. It will bring us round over here, up here, and onto an approach for ILS 9R right. Bang on that approach. Now something else I'll mention here. I'm going to bring up a picture of an approach chart for Heathrow 9R right. How I found this chart was to type into Google approach chart for Heathrow runway 9R right, and then one of the options, it's on many websites, it brought up this map. I'll circle the part of this picture that's important, and that's the height to capture the ILS, or to capture the glide scope on the ILS, which is 2,500. So when we come along this line, around about here, or just before then, I will alter the autopilot to bring us down to 2,500 so we can capture the ILS approach. I'll show you that when we get somewhere near it. Let's just toggle this map pointer so it puts us back to where our aircraft is at the moment. Still got some way to go, so when we get nearer and when we come near to the approach, I'll bring you back. Okay, so we're coming somewhat to our approach, ILS approach leg, which is what we set up before, of course. What I'm going to do, when I get a bit nearer, as I showed you, to capture the glide slope, we need to be at 2,500. So I'm going to press in a moment, vertical speed, turn it on, and then decrease vertical speed by a few hundred feet per minute, just to get us down. Also, in autopilot, you control your throttle. So I'm going to probably go about half throttle on my Logitech throttle quadrant to get to around 85 knots or under, and get into flaps 1 and then flaps 2. And then when we get the glide scope, you'll see a little G, I think it's somewhere here, and you'll see the glide scope indicator. When it comes to the centre, I shall disable the autopilot and try and follow the glide scope with my throttle, using my throttle. So basically I'll be controlling my height of the aircraft with my throttle, that's the idea. So I'll tell you what, we're getting near enough. Let's go. Vertical speed, turn it on. Let's decrease our speed. Oops. Oh, did I turn that on? Not sure what I did there. And try again. Right. Ah, because I've not... See, my mistake. You first got to select a lower altitude. That would make sense. So now 2,500, you can see it there. That's what I'm asking the autopilot to do. Turn vertical speed mode on and decrease vertical speed by 300 feet per minute. We shall start turning soon on our ILS approach leg. I never need to. I might as well go 400 feet a minute to get us down in good time. Once we start turning, I'll decrease the throttle as well, like I mentioned before. That's just so I can get into flaps 1, so I get into that white. I'll go and look at video 1 for an explanation of this, but strips at the side here, you got yellow, you got green, underneath here there's white to get into flaps 1 position and then flaps 2. So we're coming down nicely, so I can probably increase. I don't need to go 400 feet a minute. 300 feet should get us down to 2,500 quite nicely. Or will it? Let's just stick to what we were doing, 400 feet per minute, vertical speed. Let's slow down. So about half throttle now. And because we're turning as well, see we're doing quite a high speed there, but because we're turning as well, that's going to help slow our speed down with hopes. We are descending as well, so that will affect our speed, of course. So keep that in mind. So even go down a little bit further with the throttle. And remember to put it back up once we hit our 2,500 altitude, because we don't want to slow down too much. Let's just zoom in on that approach leg, or the ILS approach. Oops, want to go the other way? A little bit more, that'll do. Just so I can see what's happening. We're going to reach our 2,500 in no time before we get on our straight for our airport, or our runway. That's also straight leg to the runway. So that's all well and good. You notice the vertical speed will lessen once we get near that 2,500. But still, I want to decrease my speed because I do want to get to that flaps 1 position at least. See the speed now. When that hits around 85, I'll go flaps 1. In fact, the aircraft has stopped descending. It's easing up on our descent. So I can just throttle up a little bit more just to ensure we're not going too slowly. A little bit less so I get to that 85, getting that white arc, you know, 86 now, 85, that'll do. So flaps 1 or 10 degrees of flaps to be more accurate. In fact, if I can get into flaps 2, around 80 should do. Then we're just all set up. I'll just ensure we're not slowing down too much now, so just control the throttle a little bit, just to ensure that we reach around the 70-ish knots mark. Don't want to be too slow, I don't want to be in danger of stalling, of course. And putting the throttle up a little bit does help because we will be controlling our descent with the throttle, of course. So there's no harm in doing that. Just ensure that you're not going too slowly. There we go. We're building up speed a little bit better there now. Just want to get it up a little bit. Takes a bit of practice. Just play with your throttle and then use it and practice to using your throttle to control your descent into the airport. We're coming up on our last turn of our ILS approach. Like I say, I will disable the throttle once we get that G up here, and you'll see the glide slope indicator, and we want that. There it goes. Let's give you a better view of there. So when that diamond comes to around the center, that's, or roughly, that's when I'll start disabling my autopilot and follow the glide scope in. Should see the airport here any second. Windsor Castle is to our left there, which is right. It's going to bring us back, it's okay. Bring us back. There's Windsor Castle to our left, rather. And that's the runway. Right ahead of us there. So I can already see the runway. That diamond is coming down a little bit, so I'm going to get ready to disengage the autopilot. Speed is about right at the moment. That's okay. So once that diamond gets a little bit further down, maybe to here, I'll disable the autopilot and follow the diamond. Try and keep that diamond in the center to follow the glide scope into the airport. Very simple to do. You can even disable autopilot, ignore all this, and just try and land, because you've got the airport, the runway straight ahead of you. But it's good practice to try and follow the glide slope in. So let it come a little bit further, then I'll disengage. I'm in full flaps, and you want to be in full flaps around 70 knots, some 68 knots, that's fine. Gonna disengage the autopilot now. Ignore any flashing that's going on, it's just telling you that you disengaged the autopilot. I'm gonna follow that glide slope down, which means that now we're at perfect glide slope. So if that goes under me, so I want to decrease my throttle, so I'm following it. Gotta pan ahead to make sure I have got the airport. There's the airport, yep. That's the runway rather. So just get back on it slightly. Throttle down again because the glide slope is going underneath me. Slope is going underneath me. Come down a little bit more on the throttle. Just to get that diamond back in the center. Still pretty much on it, not to worry. Here, by the sound of the engine, I am indeed decreasing my throttle just to get that glide slope back up, or to stay on it. Don't chase it, let it come back up if the nose of your aircraft is going down. Essentially, when I start to see that green dot there go back up a little bit, I shall increase my throttle a little bit when I'm back on the glide slope. Okay, this is not the best demonstration. It's easy to fly this Cessna 172 straight onto the runway now, but I am trying to follow the glide slope just to be professional. Or to give an air of professionality. Not bad, I'm following it fairly well. It's a little under me. It's a bit tricky to do. Just decreasing my throttle a little bit more, so I'm going to descend a little bit more. I am pretty much still on it though. As you can see, the airport's directly, the runway is directly ahead of me. If we see the PAPI lights, they should be near perfect at the moment. Not difficult to do. And it's good practice, especially if you've got an ILS approach set up. You will get that glide slope indicator. You can see it coming back up now, in fact. So what I may have to do is throttle up slightly, just so it doesn't end up too high above me now. So let's just keep the throttle where it is. It seems quite nice there. Yep, I know that's Heathrow Airport, thank you. There you go. It's going to rise above the middle now. I'm talking about that diamond in the centre, so I'm just going to increase throttle a little bit, and try and keep it right there now. Good practice, and by following that glide slope, you are essentially, it's essentially allowing you to practice a perfect approach into an airport. So if you need to watch this video again later, do give this a go. What I would recommend, actually, it took me over 2 hours to get to this point, from Manchester to Heathrow. Now when you're flying a jumbo jet, let's just increase our throttle a little bit while I'm talking. When you're flying a jumbo jet, obviously it takes around 35 to 40 minutes. That's because it's going 3 times the speed of a Cessna. What I would do is choose an airport on that flight path. Go and set Manchester to Heathrow, like I showed you in video 1. Choose an airport much closer to Heathrow on that flight path and go there. Otherwise, yeah, you could be spending 2 hours with autopilot on, getting from A to B. There is a time skip available in Flight Simulator 2021. Doesn't show you how much you skip in time. You simply have to look at the clock and see if those seconds are going up normally. I may do a video on that. I think there's a program that allows you to see how much time skip you've got employed. Anyway, let's concentrate back on this flight. You can see I've got the glide scope bang center at the moment, which is great. The PAPI lights are looking good. Looks like it's 2 red and 2 white, if I'm right there. Oh yes. So everything's looking perfect. Not surprising if you're following the glide slope. That should be happening. Once we get nearer to the airport, I'm going to ignore the PAPI lights, I'm going to ignore the glide slope and just land on the runway. So you can see the PAPI lights are going slightly off. I'm not worried about it. Not worried about it. I think I need to come down a bit in my altitude, but that's okay. So I'm just decreasing the throttle, like I said. I'm not using trim. Not using my yoke system. Or flight yoke. Oh, big pause there. Good grief, don't do that when I'm landing, please. And now I've ignored the PAPI lights. I'm ignoring the glide slope. I'm just trying to get on that threshold of the runway, so I'm decreasing my throttle enough to get down. Increase it if I'm going too low. Now I'm pretty much going to be over the runway, so I can decrease my throttle entirely here. And use my yoke to float above the runway. Simple dimple, no need to panic there. Don't panic, just small adjustments with the throttle to control your altitude. And just get down like that. Now just brake, raise my flaps, and I won't bother parking up. Anyway, listen, I hope that's been of use to you. I'll be interested to know your comments and thoughts in the comments below. Give the video a like if it's been helpful to you. Subscribe for more, plenty more Flight Simulator 2020 videos on the way, and I'll see you soon.